All right, welcome back, folks. It is time for a 13th episode in our quest to clone Mark 262 Mod 1. This stuff right here, the 77 grain OTM from Black Hills Ammunition. This is really good stuff. It shoots incredibly well. The military uses it and they designate it Mark 262, so that's what we call it because we like to pretend that we're in the military. It uses a 77 grain Sierra Match King with a Cannelure. And our quest in these previous 12 episodes has been to duplicate the performance of this stuff. And by performance, we're talking about a muzzle velocity of 2,750 to 2,760 feet per second, right in that range, out of my 18-inch White Oak Armament barrel. The accuracy we've seen has been between 0.5 and 0.7 MOA. It doesn't exhibit any pressure signs on the brass. And I guess that's pretty much it. We match the velocity, we match the accuracy, and we do it without hitting pressure signs. We have looked at 14 powders so far. It's a pretty good list of powders. And I think at this point in the series, we'd have to say that Accurate 2520 and Alliant Power Pro 2000 MR have done the best job of matching all of the goals we're looking to meet from the factory ammo. The vast majority of powders really can't quite get to that velocity level. So we've had a whole bunch of powders that'll hit 2700 or maybe even 2725, and the accuracy looks great and everything's going well, and then we start seeing some pressure on the brass. So our 223 upper has seen some changes since the last video. If you've been following along with 224 Valkyrie here on the channel, you'll know that over in that cartridge, we haven't seen accuracy quite as good as we've seen here in 223. So to rule out other problems that might be causing us accuracy issues in 224 Valkyrie, I swapped the barrels. So my 223 barrel is now in the upper receiver and handguard that was in the 224 Valkyrie. I feel like I just used the most confusing way possible to explain that. Sorry about that. I swapped my barrels. 224 Valkyrie and 223 got swapped. Here it is in its new configuration. We need to get a scope mounted on this guy and sight it in today before we get to shooting any groups. Now, what better way to test the accuracy of the 223 in its new configuration than with a good old Mark 262 video, right? We shoot some good groups in these videos. Now, to get our upper sighted in and do an initial verification of accuracy, I want to pull out some of our favorites. Here's Accurate 2520. So I want to load up 15 rounds with Accurate 2520. We'll use it to sight the gun in and then hopefully have enough left over for a group. I also want to shoot 8208 XBR. This has been a good shooter, and also AR comp. So that's going to be our first 25 rounds. 15 of those, 5 of those, and 5 of those. So the load data for these, Accurate 2520, we're going to shoot the same load we've been shooting with it since early in the series, 25.2 grains. Now with 8208 XBR, 2 videos ago, we shot 24.0 grains and we had some pretty bad pressure signs. So I want to back this down to about 23.6 grains. We're not quite going to hit our Mark 262 velocity number, but it'll be a good accuracy test load, no doubt about it. And same thing with AR comp. Previously, we had shot 22.9 grains, a little bit more pressure than I would like to see. So I want to back this guy down to 22.6. So that's our first 25 rounds. We're mainly just testing the upper and having a little bit of fun, hopefully shooting some good groups. Now, you would think episode number 13, we've tested 14 different powders. There's no way that there's any powders left to test. You would be wrong, my friend. You would be very wrong. I've still got several powders I want to test. In this video today, it's going to be VihtaVuori N540. This is one of the VihtaVuori high energy powders. You know, the 500 powders are their double base high energy series, and looking at their load data, this should give us the highest velocity of any of the VihtaVuori powders. The max charge I want to use is from VihtaVuori. It's 25.3 grains. The Sierra load data also has VihtaVuori N540. In their load data, they've got a lower max charge. It's 24 point something. I don't remember exactly what it was. So we're definitely going to be exceeding Sierra's max. So we're going to have to keep our eyes open. Might be getting ourselves into trouble today. All right, so the brass for today is going to be Lake City. This batch is twice fired. It's in really good shape. It's already been cleaned and resized, and it's even been primed. And the primers are CCI number 41 primers. Those guys right there. The overall length we've been using in this series is a little bit goofy. We call it 2.246 inches because earlier in the series we measured out all of the rounds that came in this box of factory ammo and averaged out what they used and tried to duplicate as much as we could exactly what Black Hills was doing, and that was the Black Hills number. If I were to round that off to a more reasonable number, 2.250 sounds better. A little bit of excess room in the magazine. The Cannelure lines up properly and all of that junk. So yeah, 2.246, 2.250, whatever. That's the number. That's the ballpark. All right, so I'm going to start my powder weighing adventures with Accurate 2520, and we should be seating bullets in no time here. All right, so we're just going to skip right over weighing out powder and get to bullet seating. And I'm trying to get my Forster Ultra Micrometer seating die dialed in. I haven't been able to use this guy in quite a while because right after I bought it, the seating stem cracked. But I finally ordered a new one. We're going to try and use it here today. So 2.246 was our target, more or less, right? 2.250, somewhere in that range. So I'm still a little bit long. 2.253, 2.251. Tell you what, let's go down 3 more thousandths and we'll just call that good enough. All right, we're pretty close. 2.248, 2.249, good enough. Now in this series, we do apply a little bit of crimp with Leaf Factory crimp die. The Black Hills factory ammo was crimped, so we've just crimped it as we went along here in this series. Try and set the die for something really light. Yep, nothing crazy. That's what it looks like. Really nice Cannelure alignment. You can just barely see it there. Nice and shiny and pretty and ready to shoot. Now, when I was weighing out our charges for the VihtaVuori N540 rounds, I really liked the case fill. I think at least our top couple charges are going to be a little bit compressed, but it's not going to be bad. And I'm really hoping maybe, you know, this will be an extruded powder that finally gets us where we need to be in this series. Because, you know, so far on the extruded side of things, AR Comp and 8208 XBR that we're shooting in today's video have come the closest. And to get the velocity we're looking at, man, those pressure signs were just a little bit too gnarly. So I'm hoping that VihtaVuori N540 might be the magical powder. These charge weights, like our starting charge is 24.1. I think that's much higher than we've gone with any of the other extruded options we've tested. So hopefully this is just the magical burn rate where we get a nice full case and the velocities are way up there. So there's not that much exciting to see here with bullet seating. I'll tell you what I'll do. Let's go ahead and jump all the way forward to the row with this is the max charge of VihtaVuori N540. Let's see how crunchy this guy sounds. A little bit crunchy. I'm going to seat a couple of them and then we'll double check our overall length. I might need to go down a little bit on the seating die to compensate with the compressed load. Yeah, it looks like I'm seeing a little bit more Cannelure on these guys than I did with those others. Yep, a bunch. 2.268, 2.273, 2.267. So this is 20 thousandths longer overall length than we saw with Accurate 2520. So let's go ahead and go down. Actually, if we go down 22, it lines us right up with a 0 here on the readout. Let's see what that gives us. That's a lot of difference. Yeah, it's pretty close. 2.247 to 2.252, somewhere in that range. So I'll go ahead and crimp these guys and call them good. So let me back the die back out to where it was before. Now this is our starting charge of N540. Let's see if it's also compressed. Little bit, yeah, a little bit of crunchiness there. But I can still hear some granules moving around in there. So at least on this row, I think the bullet is just lightly kissing the powder. 2.264. Different seating dies seem to be more sensitive about this. And I'm sure it has to do with the seating stem design. It seems like the Redding die, standard Redding seating die that we've been using in this series up to this point, isn't all that susceptible to growing overall lengths with compressed charges, but these Forster Ultra Micrometer seating dies are, and I think it has to do, and maybe it's part of the reason why, like I had previously cracked the seating stem in this die, and I think what's going on is the seating stem is kind of spreading out. Like the more force that's on it, the more the seating stem gives a little bit. Yeah, I don't know if that makes sense, whatever. Hopefully you get what I'm saying. So that's basically all I need to do, is go through and get all of these guys seated while watching our overall length and adjusting the die as necessary. So that's all pretty boring. We've covered it many times in the past. So we'll just end it here and I'll see you guys out on the range. All right, folks, I just got this guy sighted in, and I'm gonna spare you the details because it was very simple. The gun was shooting about 1 inch high, which is pretty cool because this scope was zeroed with this same upper in 224 Valkyrie. So the fact that we basically just swapped a new barrel in and the gun is still pretty much zeroed, I found interesting. Now this upper receiver and handguard are BCM. It's a standard BCM upper and BCM KMR 15 handguard. The old configuration with this barrel, the upper and handguard were from Palmetto State Armory. I am shooting with my Silencer Co. Omega suppressor, but I do not have my Magneto Speed chronograph out today. Instead, I've got my Caldwell Ballistic Precision chronograph out there sitting at about 8 or 10 feet. So that's how we're collecting our velocities. So the target's at 100 yards, shooting off a bipod and a rear bag. We're going to start out with the Accurate 25-20 load. I only used 5 of these guys to get the gun sighted in, so this is going to be a 10-shot group. We'll see what happens. Wow, that shot kind of went wild. Interesting. All right, so that group wasn't quite what I was hoping for. So our velocity is a little bit high here, and there's 2 things going on. First of all, I'm using my Caldwell chronograph instead of my Magneto Speed. And my previous testing with the Caldwell shows that it generally reads about, I think it was 15 or 20 feet per second faster than the Magneto Speed. So that accounts for a little bit. The other, I think our initial load workup with 25-20 was at about 50 degrees, and today it's about 80 degrees. So I think that's why we're a little bit high. Next up is 8208 XBR. Let's see if this one will group. All right, so that was excellent all around. Good looking group. The velocities, standard deviation look great. And if you remember, we dropped our charge weight on this guy. This video we shot 23.6, where last time we had shot 24. There weren't any pressure signs on the brass. So that little drop in charge weight seems to have gotten us into a spot where the brass looks good, the groups are good, and the velocity's pretty close. Even if today's chronograph is reading 15 or 20 high from the Magneto Speed numbers, those are still respectable numbers with 8208 XBR. So next up is AR comp. 5-shot group. Let's see what happens. All right, so that group's a little bit bigger, but still not bad. Not bad at all. Now, velocity on this guy, a little bit lower at 2697, but the brass looks perfect, so we could bump that back up if we wanted to, maybe just a touch. So I think what I'm going to do is take a break, let the gun cool down just a little bit, and then we'll move on to VihtaVuori N540. Okay, VihtaVuori N540. First up is going to be 24.1 grains. I'm going to be really interested to get a velocity and look at the brass on this first shot. Hopefully we didn't start too high, so let's find out. And of course I get an error on my chronograph. Let me at least track down the brass. All right, so the piece of brass looks fine. This is one of those days where the sun is coming in and out, and I think it's just confused my chronograph. All right, let's see if we get a number on this next one. All right, that time we got a number, 2686, which is a really good sign. Let's see if it'll group. Okay, so the situation could not be better. great velocity, great group there to start out with, great standard deviation, and the brass is perfect. So we're moving on. 24.4 grains is next. All right, so that's more of the good stuff. Outstanding group, nice little velocity bump. And the velocity, the standard deviation number was really low until the last shot, which was in the 2680s. So one of the shots in that last group kind of boogered things up. The brass still looks good. So we're moving on. Next up, 24.7 grains. All right, folks, it's looking like we got one of our best ever performers here. The brass still looks fine, but I am starting to see just a little bit of an ejector mark. I think this load right here, 25 grains, might just be the one. So hopefully the brass still looks pretty good. Let's find out. 25.0. All right, folks, I really can't believe it, but the brass still looks fine. Just the tiniest little bit of an ejector mark. It's the kind that I can see out here in the sun, but then when we get back to the bench, mark my words, when we look at the brass, I'm gonna have trouble spotting them in the lighting in there. You know what I'm saying? Just the tiniest little bit. Velocity looking good. That's our target, 2,760 feet per second. Standard deviation back down to a single digit number. So let's see what happens here with 25.3 grains. All right, if not for that first shot that went left, that would have been another good group. I can't believe how good this brass looks. All the way up to 2783. So even if today's chronograph is reading a little bit hot, that should still be at or above our target with my magneto speed, I would imagine. So it's all good, man. Let's get back to the bench, celebrate. All right, let's start with a quick look at the brass, and it's going to be really quick because, well, just like I predicted while we were out there, I get in here to the indoor lighting and I can't even see the ejector marks I thought I was seeing out there. I think like here's one little smear we can see. This was the middle charge VihtaVuori N540. There we go, maybe just an ever so slight little bit of a smear there, but it's not terrible. Cases look great. Here are 3 of the max charge of VihtaVuori N540. That's just good looking brass, man. So that's blowing my mind. 2,783 feet per second. And still looking outstanding. So it's all good in the brass department. Okay, folks, let's have a look at some groups. Our first 3 groups, we had a bit of a mix here, right? Accurate 2520 kind of sucked a little bit. 1.817 inches. Ugh. Now, the last time we shot this combination, I think we shot a smaller group than this at 200 yards. And that was a 10-shot group. So I don't have a good explanation for what's going on here with Accurate 2520. Here's my fear. I did just crack open a fresh can of Accurate 2520. So new lot number. Hopefully this isn't going to be a powder where some lots are good and some lots are bad. I don't know. I'll reserve judgment for the time being, but we'll just kind of make a mental note that the first groups out of this new can were not any good. Now, trusty old 8208 XBR came by and saved the day. That's a 0.709 inch group. Really good looking group that could have been even better if that one shot hadn't dropped a little bit low and to the left, but that's how it goes. Our last group with AR comp was a 0.882 inch group. but it's not a very good looking group, right? It wasn't even really trying to put them through one hole. So that AR comp recipe might still need a little bit of a tweak. It was down on velocity as well, so yeah, we might need to bump that guy up. Now on to VihtaVuori N540. These first three groups are really, really impressive stuff. The first one was a little bit bigger than it could have been at an 858, but the .487 inch group and the .461 inch group, those are good, that's good stuff, man. And at 24.7, we were already up to 2,736 feet per second. Now the top two groups kind of went to crap. The fourth one was right at an inch, and then the last one was 1.341 inches. Things got pretty heavily compressed and crunchy up there at the top end. So this might be a good candidate for a little bit more care when we're weighing our charges, because if we can get the powder settled a little bit better to where the granules don't get crunched up and broken so much, maybe we could tighten up these groups on the top end here. And it would probably be worth it because, I mean, this is the best performance we've seen out of an extruded powder. These are the best pressure signs we've seen at these velocities with this bullet. So pretty good stuff. So I'm just really happy with today's results. Like, I needed today. We've been shooting 224 Valkyrie and accuracy has been hard to come by. And speaking of 224 Valkyrie, I just ordered some Starline brass. They finally started taking back orders on their site, and it's supposed to ship later this week. So we'll be back on the 224 Valkyrie here in just a couple days, and hopefully we'll be doing it with some new brass. But back to what I was saying, you know, like I needed this because 224 Valkyrie's kind of been shooting crappy, and our initial AR-10 groups in 308 have been a little bit crappy, so it was nice to just shoot 223 and shoot some good groups. And I think we've got a really, really good powder choice on our hands. We'll just have to duplicate these results as this series goes forward, you know, a lot of times, kind of like we did today, shoot some verification loads, see how our favorite loads are holding up. And this powder is definitely going to go into the favorite loads category, no doubt about it. So I think I'm going to turn around and just film another one of these videos next. We're going to have Mark 262 episode 14 coming at you here in the next day or two. And this is the next powder that I'm interested in, Power Pro Varmint, Alliant Power Pro Varmint. If you'll recall, we've already tested Power Pro 2000 MR in this series. It was an excellent performer with a ton of velocity, but it's a little bit slower burning than I initially thought. Like, our charge weights with this guy, I think it was up in the 27 point something range. So Power Pro Varmint is a little bit faster than 2000 MR. I'm hoping maybe we can get Power Pro Varmint up into this 25 grains of powder sort of region and get some surprising velocity out of it, because I've been using this powder over in 6.5 Grendel a little bit. And that's another cartridge where, like, Accurate 2520 is a really good velocity powder for that cartridge, and Varmint is performing just as well. So yeah, I'm interested to see how far we can push it with the 77 grain bullet. It might be an epic failure. I don't know. That's why we test. So that's coming next. I haven't decided what the second powder will be. We'll probably test two powders in that video. You guys let me know what you think. I still need to test H380. We could maybe throw H380 in the mix. And we could also bring in some powders that I really don't think have any chance of hitting our velocity target of, you know, 2750, but, you know, they're still good powders that might shoot really accurately with our 77 grain Match King. So that's all of the faster powders, from H335 and faster. Maybe Ramshot X Terminator and maybe Benchmark. You know, powders like that they're probably going to top out at maybe 2650 to 2700, something like that. I think it's still worthwhile to test those guys out. Since we're running out, we're running out of the really high velocity powders that are in that sweet spot of the burn rate chart that we've been exploring so thoroughly here in this series. All right, I'm getting super rambly, which means it's time to wrap this up. I will see you guys next time.